versus the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, the Colts' #1 scoring offense. So who's under more pressure, the Chiefs' offense or defense?
I think it's the Chiefs' defense. And again, I've said this, but if people haven't watched this week, Patrick did not play well enough against Denver, and he had one of the least efficient games of his career against Buffalo. So those last two games, a big part of the reason they lost is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen didn't play up to his standards. I understand that. Despite that, I believe Patrick will hold up his end of the bargain this weekend. And so I think that the offense, the pressure on the offense is a release valve a bit, and that I think we're going to get a really good Patrick Mahomes game. The question is the defense going to be able to get off the field on 3rd and long, and is the defense going to be able to be one of the only teams this year to not let Jonathan Taylor put up such a stat line that in 2025 we're talking about giving running backs an MVP? When we we are a year removed from running back being able to set the all-time yardage record, choosing not to for an awesome team, and everyone's like, well, he's not the MVP. And then so, to me, the pressure is on the defense that was not good enough. The Chiefs' offense, Brew, against Denver had an excuse. Playing the Broncos' defense. They're awesome.
Yep.
You know, the Chiefs' defense did not have an excuse.
Right.
Playing the Broncos offense, you should have been able to get stops, and they weren't able to.
I hear what you're saying because the defense of the Chiefs is facing a better unit.
Yes.
They're facing the best offense in the league statistically, best running back, and the Chiefs' offense is not. They're facing a solid defense,
Yes.
not a great defense. But pressure, they say, is what? A result of expectations. Patrick Mahomes is the face of the team. And he obviously is the offense, as the quarterback. So I just think win or lose, it's going to be on Mahomes. If they lose this game, people are going to be looking at Patrick Mahomes. Now, I guess if it were 40-38, then you could say, okay, Mahomes did everything he could.
Amazing.
But if he loses, if it's not a shootout to that extent, there will be, he couldn't outgun Daniel Jones.
I think that storyline's going to die. At some point, we got to be like Daniel Jones in this offense.
But he's not close to Mahomes, though. No, and Daniel Jones, let's keep it real.
Last 2 weeks.
Right. Not just that, he's got 15 touchdowns, not high, and 7 picks.
All right. I don't intend to launch into a full-scale critique of Daniel Jones, but the conversation naturally turns to his challenging performances over the past 2 weeks. Well, the same can be said for Patrick Mahomes. The weight of expectation, however, falls squarely on Mahomes because of who he is. To suggest the pressure isn't on him is an utterly illogical statement. It is unequivocally on Patrick Mahomes. Over these recent weeks, while I'm not asserting he has been the primary reason for their losses, he certainly hasn't been the driving force behind their victories. And he is Patrick Mahomes. I'm not here to debate the fairness of this standard, but it is the inescapable reality of his position. The burden of leadership is immense. He is the franchise cornerstone, and his performance against the Denver Broncos last week was not up to the required standard. You cannot simply deflect by stating, the excuse is that the Denver Broncos defense is great. That misses the point. He committed unforced errors. He threw a disastrous interception, one of the most ill-advised passes you could possibly attempt, and he was the one who made that decision. That responsibility lies with him. He was inaccurate, missing open receivers with overthrows. The blame for those specific execution failures rests on his shoulders. That is simply how the analysis works at this elite level. Let me be perfectly clear. I am not watching that game and concluding that Patrick Mahomes single-handedly lost them the game. Do not misinterpret my analysis as saying that, because that is not my argument. However, the complementary truth is that he was not the catalyst for a victory either. That is the objective reality. Now, as they approach this critical contest, a must-win scenario where their entire season literally hangs in the balance, arguably the most significant game they have played all year, you want to claim the pressure isn't on Patrick Mahomes? Can you explain how that perspective holds any logical water? Do you understand why that line of reasoning is fundamentally flawed? If he had been performing at an exceptional level all season, or even just balling out over the past few weeks, doing everything humanly possible to carry the team, coming off a 5-touchdown, 320-yard masterpiece, then I would be the first to say, Mahomes is doing his part. At some point, the defense needs to get a stop, or the running game needs to contribute. In that scenario, I could understand shifting the focus. But that is not the case. That is not the sequence of events that has transpired. In fact, the Kansas City Chiefs defense, in the game against the Broncos, largely answered the call. They did not surrender 35 points. They held a capable offense to 22 points, and it was a 19-point game until the final last-second field goal. The defensive unit provided a performance that should have been sufficient to win. The offense, and specifically the quarterback play, did not match that level. Therefore, no, the pressure is transparently and overwhelmingly on Patrick Mahomes. It is obvious. You can observe his recent body of work and legitimately question, I'm not certain you are performing at a level commensurate with your capabilities and your contract. Unfortunately, that is the prevailing perception. Again, I am not stating that their losses to the Bills and the Broncos are entirely his fault. Many of the issues can be rationally explained, just as I did not place the blame on him for the losses to the Chargers and the Eagles earlier in the season. However, that rationalization does not alter the fundamental fact that the spotlight of expectation is trained directly on him. The way this question was previously addressed completely sidestepped the core issue. Responding with, I know Patrick Mahomes will show up, is a non-answer. The question was not a prediction of performance. It was an assessment of where the burden lies. Who is under more pressure? That is a distinct question from, who do you need more from to win this game? If you rephrase it to, do the Chiefs require a monumental game from Mahomes or a monumental game from their defense to secure this victory? That is a different inquiry. You argued that the Colts' offense has been prolific, which is true, and that to win, the Chiefs' defense must slow them down, which is also true. But in the present context, the pressure is on Patrick Mahomes because he has not been piloting the Chiefs' offense to the lofty heights we have come to expect. The only instances where we have truly seen that dominant offensive unit have been against inferior opponents with weak defenses, the Raiders, the Commanders. Even in the Jaguars game where they put up points, it was marred by a devastating interception in his own red zone, a pick six that had catastrophic consequences for the game's outcome. I believe if there was a genuine, widespread sense that Patrick Mahomes was truly carrying this team on his back, performing heroic feats week in and week out, then the external pressure on him would be diminished. If the narrative was that his defense was consistently letting him down, or that the supporting cast around him was fundamentally inadequate, then I could comprehend the argument to shift the focus. But that is not the prevailing story, nor has it been the narrative. Even when he was missing key weapons like Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, the refrain was, just wait until he gets them back. Everything will be different then. And when they returned, it was different, but only against those same subpar teams. That is the crucial distinction. I am genuinely excited for this matchup, and I've discussed it extensively. If the Colts are, as some believe, fool's gold, a team whose record is better than its underlying quality, then yes, the Chiefs' defense should absolutely rise to the occasion and contain them. Furthermore, there is little evidence to suggest the Colts' defense possesses the capability to hamper Patrick Mahomes in a significant, measurable way that would make you say, wow, Mahomes simply can't get anything going against this unit. They are not the Broncos' defense. They are not what the Bills' defense was able to do in their matchup, a performance that now looks like a one-off anomaly for Buffalo. So it's difficult to envision that scenario playing out. The dynamic here is fascinating. If the Chiefs win this game, and particularly if they win convincingly, I would lean towards the conclusion that it proves the Colts are indeed more of a mirage than I might have initially thought. Conversely, if the Colts beat the Chiefs, I would interpret that as further compelling evidence that the Colts are not fool's gold, but a legitimate force. This creates an intriguing asymmetry for the Chiefs. If they lose, it serves to validate the quality of the Colts, which is, in itself, a testament to how much respect I have for the Chiefs. Beating them is a significant accomplishment. However, if the Chiefs win, I am not necessarily going to conclude. This is proof the Chiefs are a top-tier team because they just beat the Colts. I understand people might twist this, claiming I am reluctant to give the Chiefs credit if they win. But my logic is consistent. If they lose, I am praising the team that beat them, precisely because I believe the Chiefs are an incredibly difficult team to defeat. That is the ultimate form of respect. The situation is nuanced. It's not always straightforward, and this is simply how I perceive the stakes at this moment. My perspective could certainly evolve as I watch the game unfold. When I survey the rest of the Chiefs' schedule, I'm not sure there are many other games I could point to where a victory would convincingly prove to me that they can beat any of the league's true elite. If a Colts team that appeared promising proves not to be legitimate, it starts a chain reaction of doubt. It makes you question, are the Seahawks for real? Are the Patriots? Are the Broncos? You begin to wonder how many truly legitimate contenders there actually are in the league right now. And if there is a dearth of truly elite teams, then the path for the Chiefs becomes clearer. They just need to navigate their way into the postseason. And then, once there, it's a whole new ballgame. So the situation for Kansas City is messy, and I absolutely love it. I relish this asymmetrical analysis where a Chiefs victory leaves me somewhat uncertain about its greater meaning, while a Colts victory provides me with a definitive data point. Once again, this framework ultimately benefits the Chiefs in terms of the respect it implies, but a win doesn't automatically translate into a ringing endorsement for them. It functions more as an indictment of the Colts' legitimacy. I love the complexity because it resists simple, straightforward conclusions. For the longest time, analyzing the Chiefs was very simple, which made some games and their outcomes rather predictable and, frankly, boring. The conclusion was often, yep, the Chiefs won. They made the plays, on to the next one. There wasn't much depth to unpack. Now, a game against the Colts, and Daniel Jones demands context. It requires genuine analysis and interpretation. I love that. There was a time when this particular matchup would have been utterly meaningless. Now, it carries immense significance. It's awesome. I empathize with Chiefs fans that a game like this matters so profoundly. I know you wish it didn't, but it does. And that is what makes it tremendous entertainment. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What is your perspective on the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you believe there is more pressure on Patrick Mahomes and the offense or on the Kansas City defense? Furthermore, what would a victory tell you about this team? What would a loss reveal? Let me know your opinions in the comments section below. I read every single comment, so whether you find yourself in agreement with me or you think I'm completely off base, let me know. We can get into some lively discussions. We can engage in some spirited debates. But ultimately, let's remember to have some fun with it all. Please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to have you as a part of it. I want to build something that we all feel genuinely connected to, something we're truly excited and proud to be involved in. I believe we are well on our way to achieving that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely helps with the visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.